F124 features the slightly revised Singapore track layout that we briefly saw in last year's game. This layout tweak removed the 2 additional chicanes that saw players heading under the bridge, instead opting for a straight section of track. Due to the removal of some relatively slow corners, lap times are now around 7 or so seconds faster than they were before the change. Now, despite the lower corner count, Singapore is still a mighty test of car control, discipline, and the ability to find traction. It's a circuit that flows incredibly well despite its slower corners, and is a really good example of a street track done right. Yes, Las Vegas, I'm looking at you. A top tier alien level lap time around Singapore is a high 1 minute 24, but aiming for a 126, 127 will put you among the top 5 or so % of sim racers. Anything above a 1 minute 29 and you're doing pretty well. Now let's jump right into our track guide for the Marina Bay Circuit. The first few corners at Singapore are a tricky left-right-left combination. There's plenty of runoff in case things get a little hairy on the first lap, or if your braking goes horribly wrong into turn 1. But to nail this corner sequence, start on the right of the circuit, positioned over the yellow painted track, paying attention to the bridge above. As you pass under this bridge, hit the brakes hard and shift down to 5th gear. Start to turn in left right before the curb while trailing off the brake pedal. This is a corner to attack aggressively, which is going to be a theme around Singapore, cutting the inside curb while carrying as much speed as possible. As you jump over the apex, accelerate hard through the right hand curve, watching for your car to become a little bit unsettled. Ride across the orange sausage curb, as it is low enough to not overly affect your car too much, and it will shorten your run to turn 3. Brake hard as you transition off the orange curb, shifting down to 3rd gear, and you can lean on the inside curb a little bit, but not too much, as we do want to prioritise a smooth exit. Start to accelerate as you come off the curb, and use the full width of the circuit while accelerating and drifting over to the left hand side of the track before turn 5. Now braking for turn 5 starts right at the 50 metre mark. On the approach, try to position your car as far left as possible, applying only around 50% brake pressure, and then turn in towards the apex in a single smooth motion. Attack the apex aggressively once again, using much of the inside curb to shorten your route. You should be able to accelerate confidently early, as the exit is quite wide despite the wall being right at the edge of the circuit. Turn 7 is a really good overtaking spot, so really try and maximise your corner exit speed as best as you can. Turn 7 is a medium speed left-hander that requires really pinpoint precision braking. Look for the 100 metre braking board, wait just a split second and then hit the brakes at full pressure. Downshift to 4th gear and start rotating in towards the apex. Ride over that inside apex and watch for the outer curb, as you can easily beat your car on it. Ride up and over the end of the curb only, while accelerating and pulling left before the slower turn 8. This right-hander requires a short, sharp stab on the brake pedal right before the 50 metre board. Turn into the apex right as you start to lift off the brake pedal in 3rd gear. You'll want to clip the inside apex, but not be as aggressive as you are at some of the other corners. Focus on your throttle application, as the rear of the car can really get away from you. Short shift to 4th gear if you feel the need to, and if you're facing any wheel spin. Then turn hard to the right of the circuit as turn 9 comes at you incredibly fast. The turn in and braking point both happen just after the 50 metre board, and you will want only the slightest bit of brake input before rolling your car through the apex. Again, aim to miss that apex curve, just clipping it before accelerating hard. It can feel like you're going to clip the outer wall, but stay on the throttle, trusting that the track is wide enough. The outside barrier does end, widening the track just as you need that extra little bit of width. Next up, we have the trickiest part of the Singapore circuit. Turn 10 is fairly standard, but keep your car to the right of the track, watching for the 50 metre board. Brake hard just before you reach the board, downshift into 5th gear. Throw your car in at really high speed while continuing to decelerate. You'll need to downshift to 4th on the entry, looking to ride aggressively over the inside apex curb. Accelerate out of this corner while continuing to turn left, and your aim is to have your car on the far left of the track before the braking zone for turn 11. Just as the outside barrier meets the edge of the track, brake and almost immediately turn right while staying in 4th gear. Again, cut the inside curb to minimise the corner angle while accelerating once again through the corner, being really careful of that left side barrier that can easily catch you out. Hug the barrier as the track bends left, trying to take turn 12 at full speed. then move to the left of the circuit just before turning right ahead of the tricky braking zone for turn 13. Aim to brake just as the wall juts out into the edge of the circuit, keeping your steering as straight as possible to avoid locking a wheel. While braking, keep your car as far right as you can on the track before turning into the fairly traditional left-hand hairpin. Traction can be really hard to find on the exit, so modulate your throttle pressure and short shift up to 4th if needed. That was a really tricky section of track, but with it done, you're through the hardest part of the Marina Bay Circuit, and you can focus on accelerating hard down the straight that follows before the final sector. Turn 14 is a medium speed right-hander that is tighter than you first think. Keep to the left of the track and watch for that 100-meter board to disappear off screen. Then brake at full pressure, downshift into 3rd gear. Start trail braking and rotating in towards the apex just after the curb starts, and position your car about 50% over the curb. There is a lot of track past the white lines on the exit, so use all of these to open your steering as fast as possible. Then continue accelerating as the track bends left, which is entering the new layout of the circuit. Turns 16 and 17 are a right-left chicane. Start braking at around 75 meters while the Aramco sign is still on screen. Rotate in towards the apex just after the 50-meter mark, and you've guessed it, we're going to attack that apex aggressively, shortening the corner radius. Do the same thing through the left-hander that follows, maximising your speed through these corners. And accelerate as early as you can. Then continue towards the final corners where you won't need to brake at all. Instead, turn in at 50 meters, clipping that first apex curb, and then use the entire width of the track through the second phase of the corner while completing a lap of Singapore. This track can be pretty technical and pretty tricky, and it really requires a fairly liberal use of track limits, with the fastest route often being across the inside apex curb. This means you'll need a car that isn't too stiff and can handle this aggressive style of driving. It's no surprise that Singapore requires an extremely high downforce car setup, much like Monaco. The slow corners and straight speeds mean the higher your aero is set, the more performance you can extract from each corner. I like to keep a few clicks of rear wing aero back to help a little bit with straight line speed. You can then opt for a relatively low transmission setup to help eliminate low speed wheel spin and generally keep your car a little bit easier to drive. With the suspension geometry, you'll want your camber all the way left as normal, but you do want to add some rear toe, as this can really help with stability and eliminate oversteer. Then set up the suspension with a stiff front end and a really soft rear, and do the same with the anti-roll bars, prioritising a soft rear ARB. Go with the brake bias of 55%, but this can be pushed to 56% if you notice any instability at the rear under braking. Then due to the slower speed of the track, you can actually lower the tyre pressures, especially at the front of the car. Now you might have noticed during this video that there are throttle and brake telemetry on the screen at all times, and this is provided by Track Titan. Track Titan is an analysis tool where you can look at and analyse your laps in F1 24 as well as other sim racing titles, and it can even be used on consoles. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to check out Track Titan, and they do have a free membership level if you fancy giving it a go. We also have a discount code available if you do wish to sign up, and that is SimRacingSetup. This code will give you 50% discount on a Plus membership for 3 months. I'd also recommend using the code when signing up for a free membership, as you'll get unlimited laps for a whole month rather than the normal 50 laps, which can be used up very quickly. But for now guys, that rounds out our Singapore track guide, and if you found it useful in any way whatsoever, I'd really appreciate a like and maybe even a subscribe, as we're almost at 100,000 subscribers. But for now guys, I will see you on track.